what's going on? And welcome back to GameTimeAstrology Podcast, the first ever sports astrology podcast. You heard it here first. It's your girl, Wnba, and welcome back. And make sure you guys go ahead and like, subscribe, share this with your sports friends, your astrology friends, and also drop down below in the description box for information on how to get in contact with me for a reading. That website is qlarae.co/astrology. Also, check out the Patreon. I have two new tiers up. One is for an astrocartography class, and the other one is for extended readings on legendary sports figures. So let's go ahead and jump into today's video. We are going to be talking about the WNBA's natal chart. And the reason why is because currently the WNBA is considering a lockout ahead of the season for the WNBA this year. So let's read what NBC News says. I'm going to read to you guys the article so you can get a little bit more filled in on what the situation is. And then we're going to dive into the natal chart of the WNBA, because if you didn't know, every business, every entity has its own birth chart, which would ultimately really affect the energy and how that business will operate in given years, months, time periods, decades, all these things. Okay, so the WNBA has a birth chart, and we're going to get into that in just a moment after we read this article. So what's going on? The WNBA lockout threat looms as league and players negotiate new contract. The sub-headline says, there has never been a strike in the league's 30-year history, but it appears possible as Friday's deadline approaches. Okay, so let's read. The deadline for the WNBA to agree on a new contract with the Players Union is Friday, January the 9th, which is today as I'm recording this video, and it appears that the two sides remain at a distance even after almost a year of negotiations. This week marks the end of a second extension to the current contract, which should have expired on October 31st after the 2025 season ended. It would not immediately force a strike from players who voted last month to authorize a work stoppage, but it does raise concerns that this year's season may start with a lockout. So let's get into some numbers, okay? Because basically this is a numbers thing with the WNBA considering a lockout, with the players considering a lockout. Basically, they're like, we're not getting paid enough money. That's essentially what's going on, but let's get into the numbers of this article. So according to a person with knowledge of the situation, the latest proposal from the WNBA includes an uncapped revenue sharing model. Within that, maximum salaries can exceed $1.3 million, approximately a 430% increase to what it is now, in the first year while growing to nearly $2 million. The average salary in the WNBA currently is $120,000. And it will increase above $530,000 in the first year, with the potential to go above $780,000 over time. The WNBA is also proposing increasing the minimum contract from $67,000 to $230,000, according to a person with knowledge of the situation. Sources familiar with the discussions told ESPN last week that the union proposal suggested a 30% revenue share in addition to increased salary cap that would reach $10.5 million. The league believes this would result in $700 million in losses, which the union disagrees with, according to ESPN. So that's what basically the players want. They want a 30% revenue share in addition to an increased salary cap. So moving forward, the last thing I'll say here from the article, the current contract gives the players a 9% revenue share. That's currently what the WNBA players are making, a 9% revenue share, but they are fighting for a 30% revenue share. So the current contract gives WNBA players a 9% revenue share compared with the NBA, which has about 50% of the revenue redistributed to the players. Total revenues between the two leagues, however, are vastly different. The NBA is projected to generate $14.3 billion this season, and the 12 teams in the WNBA brought in $226 million in revenue in 2024. All right, so This was very interesting to me. I first heard about this actually this morning on January the 9th. I was watching YouTube, and on my feed, a YouTube creator, his video came up, and I was like, oh, this is interesting, the WNBA going on strike possibly. So I clicked on it and I watched it from start to finish, and I was like, yeah, I definitely got to create some content on this. So I definitely want to talk about the WNBA's chart and why this is happening right now, because when I looked up the WNBA's chart, I saw exactly why this is happening. It's all up and through the chart. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about why they want more money, what's triggering this in the cosmos, and let's go ahead and get into it. So the WNBA was founded by the NBA on April 24th, 1996, okay, in New York City, all right? So, of course, I used the 12 noon birth time because there is no birth time present online that I could find. And so what we're going to do is stick to only the planets and not the angular houses. The planets and the north node, the south node, and all that, those are correct, all right? So let's go ahead and talk about this. The first thing that I noticed in the WNBA's chart is that, first of all, I put the transits over top of their natal chart, and I noticed they're about to go through their Saturn return. The WNBA was born with Saturn in Aries. Currently, Saturn is in Pisces at 26 degrees, and Saturn will ingress into the sign of Aries in the month of February and definitely in March 2026. Okay, so to be exact, Saturn will ingress into Aries on February the 14th, on Valentine's Day, okay? And the natal Saturn for the WNBA is at 2 degrees, which is about finances. So the way that the WNBA's Saturn emotes and shows up characteristically is like a Taurus. It's about finances and possessions and values. So, like I said, the WNBA is about 29, 30 years old. So this is the WNBA's first Saturn return. And it's right on brand with the WNBA wanting to go on strike due to not making enough money, not giving their players enough money. Basically, the league, this entity, the WNBA, is like, enough is enough, you know? We're not going to stand for this. So Saturn will conjunct Saturn, their natal Saturn, on February 14th. So, yeah, it's looking like it's going to be a lockout, but I'll get to that in part 2 on Patreon. So we're just going to just talk about the transits here. So that's the first transit I saw. The second transit I saw was Uranus and Taurus. Uranus is in a conjunction with the WNBA's Taurus Mercury, okay? The WNBA has Mercury in Taurus at 24 degrees, and currently Uranus is in Taurus at 27 degrees. So Mercury conjunct Uranus could speak of some shocking, surprising development, which is what we're talking about now. That sub-headline in the article that I just read said that there's never been a threat to have some sort of lockout or strike in the WNBA ever. But it's happening now, and I really feel it's because of that Uranus conjunct Mercury placement. What does Mercury represent? Communication. Uranus, surprise, shocking energy. So you put those two together, shocking, surprising communication, that, you know, the WNBA, this entity, the people, the players in this entity are speaking out. And it's rather shocking. And they're speaking out about what? Taurus, money, finances. They're speaking about their values. They value themselves a lot more. They want more money. You know, things are only getting more expensive. So, you know, I understand. And trust me, I get it, because as a former athlete, you know, I played basketball in college. I played Division I college basketball, and I've been playing since I was 7 years old. And one thing about the WNBA that pretty much put a sour taste in my mouth coming up was that they didn't make a lot of money. That was number one. And number two, there wasn't a lot of engagement with the WNBA, meaning that when I went to WNBA games as a kid, there was no one in the arenas, and that just wasn't pleasing to me. But now that they have Caitlin Clark and Breanna Stewart and Angel Reese and all these new players that will be coming in soon, Juju Watkins and many, many others, Hannah Hidalgo, yeah, I think that it is time for some change. And, you know, here we are. The WNBA is about to shake some things up. And I'll talk about in part 2 what I think is going to actually happen. And that's going to be on Patreon. So let's go ahead and move on to the next transit that I saw. And you know, we have currently Jupiter is in the sign of Cancer. And Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. However, in the WNBA's chart, they do have Jupiter in Capricorn, which is in the fall, okay? Jupiter in Capricorn is a weak position. So Jupiter in Capricorn is in its fall position, and it just does not do very well there. Cancer is the opposite sign of Capricorn, and because, of course, Jupiter in Cancer is exalted, of course, then the opposite sign would not be so great there. It's the same thing that happens with any other sign. Like, for example, Sun in Aries. Sun in Aries is exalted, but when you got Sun in Libra, it's a weak position. It's debilitated. So same thing is happening here. And also, too, the WNBA has a moon in Cancer, a natal moon in Cancer at 21 degrees, and currently transit Jupiter in Cancer is at 20 degrees. All right, and so that means that transit Jupiter in Cancer is in a direct conjunction to the WNBA's Cancer moon. Okay, so let's first talk about that before we talk about the Jupiter opposition Jupiter. So Jupiter conjunct Cancer, okay? Now, we don't know what house the moon is showing up in for the WNBA. However, we do have the correct moon sign, and we do have this transit chart overlaying the chart of the WNBA, okay? So there's that, all right? Now, having said all that, what does Jupiter conjunct the moon really mean here, all right? So when Jupiter conjoins the moon, whatever Jupiter touches, it's going to exacerbate. It's going to expand it. It's going to make it bigger. And one could probably argue that the WNBA players are being emotional, right? And they're not being reasonable. They're not being rational. They're not understanding that league does not bring in enough money. You know, that was something that I discovered in the other video I was watching, that the WNBA does not bring in a ton of revenue, and therefore they're not able to pay the players as much money or give them, you know, a decent revenue share of the profit, because they don't bring in enough bodies into the arena. They don't put enough butts into the seats, if you will. And so one could say that transit Jupiter in Cancer, conjoining Cancer moon in the natal chart of the WNBA, is making this entity more emotional. The emotions are getting exacerbated. You know, the emotions are big. They're being felt. You know, they're real. You know, and then also too, Cancer rules security and stability. And so with the WNBA having a Cancer moon, what makes them, and also that's a very strong moon placement, by the way, because the moon rules Cancer. So this is very good. The moon also represents what we need to feel safe and stable, what we need to feel more security in our lives. And with Jupiter in a conjunction to the natal moon placement of the WNBA, it's amplifying, you know, hey, we don't feel safe. We're not making enough money here. You know what I mean? This is what this transit is actually doing. It's also that Jupiter in Cancer is retrograde right now, and this is why this is coming up. Jupiter did, you know, conjoin the WNBA's moon, but it was when it was direct. When now Jupiter is in retrograde motion in a transit, whenever a planet is retrograde, we're in review mode. So the WNBA is in review mode. If you're wondering why they didn't go on strike, you know, when Jupiter was going direct over the moon, that's why. Because with the planet going in retrogradation, it is now a time period where this entity, the WNBA, and its players are reevaluating, reassessing, you know, emotionally, this isn't right. I don't feel safe. I don't feel secure. I'm not making enough money. We're not getting the proper revenue share. What's going on here? We got Caitlin Clark here in 2024. It's now 2025, going into 2026, right? Retrograde. It's like something's still got to change. Nothing's changed yet. So this is why this is happening. And now let's go ahead and go to Jupiter opposite Jupiter. So transit Jupiter in an opposition to natal Jupiter pretty much means that this energy is at odds. While Jupiter in Capricorn likes to work hard, right? Feels like the expansion comes from working hard. But Jupiter in Cancer is exalted and it's saying, well, you should feel secure. Continue to work hard, and you should feel secure, kind of thing. This is how this opposition is kind of playing out. So that's that. So that's with Jupiter, okay? I covered that. Now, the last thing I'll say about the WNBA's chart that I saw, that I want to talk about in part 1 right here, is, well, the last 2 things. South Node in Aries, North Node in Libra, okay? I paused there because I was about to say Chiron, because I want to talk about that too. Chiron in Aries, transit Chiron in Aries is also playing a major role in what's going on. This league was born with Mars in Aries as well, and right now, transit Chiron in Aries is in a 1-degree orb conjunction with the WNBA's natal Mars in Aries. So let's kind of start there because I think that that's very interesting. Now, Chiron is all about, I don't like to use wounded healer because it sounds so cliche. Chiron for me is where we find our insecurities, where we're insecure, right? That's your insecurity point. Whatever sign it's in and whatever that represents, it's insecurity. And so if we are talking about Chiron and Aries rules the physical body and the personality and your appearance and your purpose out in the world, your individuality, there's an insecurity going on right now in the whole entire world because Chiron is in Aries for the collective, where you might feel like, insecure about yourself. Are you able to take care of yourself? We got Pluto in Aquarius. We're going through a recession. People are losing their jobs, so it is a triggering time for many, many people on a deep subconscious level. And so with that point, Chiron in Aries in a 1-degree orb conjunction, meaning it's very, very close. It's very, very close. It's like sitting right on top of the WNBA's Mars and Aries placement. What that's doing is it's making the, because Mars rules energy and action, it's making actions feel, very triggering. It is a triggering situation for the WNBA and its players to not get what they want, feeling like, we're good, we play, we hoop, we show up, Mars and Aries, we show up, we hoop, we compete, and yet we still feel wounded, we still feel triggered, like we're still not able to stand on our own 2 feet and move away from the WNBA's help and really get the revenue share that we want. That's what that aspect is showing me there. And then we got the South Node in Aries. The Achilles heel of a Libra North Node, I got an email, of a North Node in Libra is, survival. It's like my survival depends on looking out for myself. And I see it at 16 degrees. The North Node is at 16 degrees, the South Node is at 16 degrees. So the personality characteristics of this North Node is that of a Cancer, quite emotional and looking out for oneself, and others should make sure that their needs are met. That is what's being activated right now. I really feel like with Jupiter and Cancer will be squaring in it. Let me see if it is right now, because it will be squaring the WNBA's natal North Node and South Node on January 29th. Let's see if it's doing it right now. I'm pretty sure it is. Yes, it is. And so transit Jupiter in Cancer is currently squaring the WNBA's North Node and South Node. North Node in Libra, South Node in Aries. And this is triggering. This is where you could feel like there is a lack of getting your needs met when it pertains to this North Node in Libra. That's their Achilles heel. People or whomever that they're negotiating with should meet their needs regardless of anyone else's concerns. And Jupiter squaring the North Node is not allowing for that to happen. It's like, why do you think January 9th comes and they still haven't come to an agreement? Jupiter is about expansion, and when it's squared to the North Node, it kind of blocks the path forward. You know what I mean? So the path forward on getting their needs met, on the WNBA getting their needs met, is like at a full stop right now. Okay? And what the North Node in Libra really wants is to be their own person, to be the center of attention. That's what the WNBA wants. They want to be the center of attention. They want to, discover what it may be like to be like NBA type level, They want that attention. They've always wanted that attention. This league was born under the North Node in Libra, okay? But to achieve this attention, the Libra North Node has to refocus their attention away from themselves and kind of discover the nature of what has actually drawn people to that league. And it's something that Caitlin Clark actually said. Caitlin Clark put out a statement during this whole debacle where she basically said something around the lines of, we will kind of be shooting ourselves in the foot if we do go on strike. We need to make sure that we still, go out there and play, and while this thing, balances out. And she's right about that. She's very, very wise, born on the 22nd. That's a master number. And so, she's very masterful. She's very wise. She's very smart, because that is exactly what is in alignment with what the Libra North Node needs to learn in this lifetime to continue to show up, all right, and not be angry and have outbursts, right? Because Libra North Node can have an angry outburst, and they got to kind of learn to leave that behind. And so that's the situation that's happening with the WNBA. I'm going to leave it right there, and I'm going to go ahead and go to part 2 on the Astro Athlete tier. So go ahead and check that out. The link is down below in the description box, in which I will talk about what I will predict will happen with the strike. Will the WNBA actually go on strike, or when will they actually get paid more money? When will that be? Will it be this year? Will it be in 2028? Find out in part 2. Until next time, guys, see you later.